until a mysterious outlaw cut her free. She was left bound to a fence post to die. The Martian sun beat down hard, turning the red dust of the frontier plains into a blinding haze. Clara Voss squinted through the heat waves, her boots crunching against the coarse gravel of the trail. Her horse, a sturdy gray mare named Luma, snorted softly and pawed the ground. Clara adjusted the strap of her satchel where she carried her gadgets, small devices her father had taught her to use, meant to help with ranch work and survival in the harsh frontier. She had been out longer than she intended. The town of Red Canyon, a cluster of rusted buildings and neon-lit windmills, was miles behind her. Clara liked these quiet hours, the solitude of the open Martian plains. She could hear the faint hum of the wind turbines, the soft whisper of sand brushing against rock.
It was peaceful. Too peaceful.
The first warning came in the form of movement at the edge of canyon. Clara froze, her instincts sharpening. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and she could see the glint of metal in the sunlight. Cyborg outlaws. She recognized them immediately. Their partially mechanical limbs, their glowing visors, and the way they moved with a strange, jerky precision. They had been hunting her family's ranch for months, blaming her father for interfering with their ore shipments. Clara's heart pounded, and she pulled Luma closer. Before she could react, they were upon her. A net of metallic cables shot out from the lead outlaw's arm, wrapping around Clara's wrists and ankles. She struggled, but the cables were too strong, cutting into her skin and making her gasp in pain. One of the cyborgs laughed, a hollow mechanical sound that sent shivers down her spine. "Thought you could hide, girl?" the outlaw said, his voice distorted by an electronic filter. They dragged her off Luma, who neighed and tried to break free. Clara kicked and pulled, but they were stronger, more relentless than she had expected. Soon she found herself tied to a fence post at the edge of the settlement, the scorching sun baking her back. The outlaws stepped back, circling her like predators, before finally mounting their hoverbikes and disappearing in a cloud of red dust. Alone. Clara tried to move, but the cables bit into her skin. The sun was relentless, the heat waves making her vision swim. She could hear the faint hum of the wind turbines from the town behind her, and for a moment she wondered if anyone would find her, if anyone even cared. She struggled again, trying to twist her hands free. The wires were tight, cutting into her flesh. She gritted her teeth, refusing to panic. Her father had always taught her that fear would kill you faster than anything else in the frontier. She focused on the gadgets in her satchel. If she could just reach them. The wind shifted, carrying with it a strange sound. A low, distant whir that wasn't the wind turbines. Clara froze. She scanned the horizon, squinting through the red haze. In the distance, a shadow moved against the dunes. At first she thought it was another outlaw coming to finish the job, but then she saw it. A figure on a hoverbike, sleek and black, moving fast but with careful control. The figure slowed as it approached, stopping at the edge of the fence line. Clara's heart skipped a beat. Who was this? The shadowy figure dismounted, revealing a tall man in a long coat, his face partly covered by a scarf. Metal glinted at his wrists, mechanical arms that caught the sunlight. He carried a plasma cutter at his side, but he didn't move aggressively. He simply studied her, calm and silent, as if weighing a decision. Clara's mouth was dry. Who are you?" she croaked. The man said nothing. He knelt beside the fence post, examining the cables that bound her. With a few swift movements, he activated a small device on his wrist. Sparks flew, and the cables sizzled, loosening around her wrists. Within moments, Clara was free. She stumbled forward, breathing heavily, her legs shaking. "Get up," the man said finally, his voice low and steady. "You're not safe here." Clara nodded, glancing back at the empty trail where the outlaws had disappeared. Who are you?" she asked again, her voice stronger this time. "Someone who doesn't like seeing people left to die," he said, gesturing for her to follow. "Move fast. They'll be back." Clara scrambled to her feet, grabbing the satchel that held her gadgets. Luma was nearby, watching her with wide, trusting eyes. She mounted quickly, the man helping her steady the horse before hopping onto his own hoverbike. Together they sped down the canyon trail, the red dust kicking up around them. As they rode, Clara tried to take in the figure beside her. His movements were precise, almost too precise, and the way he handled his bike suggested years of experience. He didn't speak, only kept glancing over at her occasionally, as if making sure she was keeping up. The silence was comfortable in a strange way, and Clara felt a flicker of hope. But the sense of danger was never far. Somewhere behind them, she could hear faint mechanical whirring, the sound of drones or perhaps cyborg scouts moving through the desert like predators. Clara's heart raced, and she clutched her satchel tighter, knowing that her skills with gadgets might be needed sooner than she hoped. They reached a narrow canyon, the walls rising like jagged teeth on either side. The man brought the hoverbike to a stop, and Clara followed suit. He gestured toward a small crevice in the canyon wall, hidden from sight. "Go inside," he said. "They won't find you here." Clara dismounted, helping Luma through the narrow passage. The canyon walls were high, and the shadows offered some relief from the harsh sun. As they walked deeper, the man finally spoke again. "You're lucky I came along," he said. "Not everyone gets a second chance out here." Clara looked up at him, curiosity burning through her fear. Why help me? You don't even know me." The man shrugged, almost casually. "Doesn't matter. People tied to fence posts don't get second chances very often." For a moment, Clara allowed herself to hope. Hope that she wasn't going to die in the desert, left to the elements and the outlaws. Hope that maybe, just maybe, there was someone she could trust out here on the frontier. The canyon narrowed further, and the shadows grew longer. Clara felt a chill despite the heat, a reminder that the desert was full of dangers beyond what the eye could see. She glanced at the man beside her. There was a strange intensity in his eyes, a hint of secrets she could not yet understand. "Who are you?" she asked again, her voice steadier this time. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out over the canyon, scanning for any sign of pursuit. Finally, he said, "Call me Rogue, and stay close. The frontier doesn't forgive mistakes." Clara nodded, feeling a mix of fear and fascination. Rogue led the way through the canyon, moving with confidence and purpose. She followed, knowing that the next hours would test her skills, her courage, and her trust. Somewhere behind them, the red dust swirled. Somewhere ahead, the unknown waited. And Clara realized with a shiver of determination that she would not go quietly. Not today. Not ever. The Martian frontier stretched endlessly before her, harsh and unforgiving, but for the first time in her life, Clara felt that she might just survive it. Clara followed Rogue through the narrow Martian canyon, her boots crunching softly on the red dust. The sun was starting to sink behind jagged rock formations, casting long, dark shadows across the ground. Every step felt tense, as if the canyon itself was holding its breath. She could feel the lingering heat of the day, and the cool, shadowed walls offered only temporary relief. Rogue moved ahead with careful precision, his cybernetic limbs making no sound as they brushed against rocks and dust. Clara kept her satchel close, her fingers brushing the gadgets inside, ready to use them if needed. Her mind raced with questions about this mysterious rescuer. Who was he? Why had he saved her? And, most importantly, could she trust him? "Rogue," she asked cautiously, "why help me?" "Why risk yourself?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze was fixed on the canyon opening ahead, eyes scanning for movement, always alert. Finally he spoke, his voice low and steady, almost mechanical in rhythm. "I don't leave people to die if I can help it. That's the difference between surviving and living out here." Clara nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. She had learned early that survival in the frontier wasn't just about skill, it was about choices. Some people chose to save themselves, others, rare few, chose to save someone else. Rogue was one of those rare few. As they moved deeper into the canyon, the wind shifted. The faint hum of drones reached their ears, small scout devices, likely sent by the cyborg gang to track them. Clara's heart quickened. She could see the faint glint of metal wings reflecting the last rays of sunlight. The drones were fast, designed to find and report any movement. Rogue paused and crouched behind a boulder, gesturing for Clara to do the same. He pulled a small device from his coat, pressed a few buttons, and a soft blue field shimmered in front of them. The drones passed overhead, scanning the area, but the field distorted their sensors. They didn't detect Rogue or Clara. Clara's eyes widened. "What? What is that?" "Tech from the old frontier," Rogue replied, slipping the device back into his coat. "Keeps you invisible, for a while at least." Clara allowed herself a small smile. The frontier was harsh, but it wasn't without its wonders. She had grown up learning basic tech from her father, but Rogue's skills were on another level entirely. They continued through the canyon, moving quickly but carefully. The walls narrowed and the red dust became almost golden in the fading sunlight. For a moment, Clara allowed herself to relax, the tension easing as they moved farther from the fence post where she had been left to die. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere safe for the night," Rogue replied. You need to rest, and so do I. The outlaws won't give up easily. Clara nodded. She had been running, hiding, and fighting her own fear for hours. Rest sounded like a gift. They reached a small crevice hidden behind a natural rock formation. It was barely visible from the main canyon, perfect for hiding. Rogue dismounted, moving to guide Luma inside. Clara followed, her mare snorting softly as she entered the shelter. Inside, the temperature dropped slightly, the walls of the rock holding the cool of the shadowed canyon. Clara set her satchel down and took a deep breath. For the first time in hours, she felt safe. Rogue leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his mechanical fingers glinting in the dim light. "You're good with tech," he said finally, breaking the silence. "Better than most I've seen out here." "I learned from my father. He always said that machines and gadgets could be as useful as a gun, if you knew how to use them." Rogue nodded, a faint smile appearing on his face. "Sounds like your father knew the truth. Most people think the frontier is all guns and grit, but it's the clever ones who survive." Clara felt a strange warmth at his words. Rogue was cautious, distant, but there was respect in his tone. It was a rare thing in the harsh frontier. Night fell, and the Martian sky turned a deep purple, stars beginning to glimmer against the fading light. Clara stared up, marveling at the sight. She had always loved the night sky, even on Earth, but Mars had a way of making the stars feel infinite, as if anything was possible. "Do you always ride alone?" she asked softly. Rogue didn't answer right away. He adjusted his coat, eyes still scanning the horizon even in the shadows. Finally he said, "I used to have a partner. Lost him a long time ago, learned not to get attached. Makes survival easier." Clara felt a pang of sympathy. The frontier was cruel, but there were still people who tried to make it better, even if it meant walking alone. She considered telling him about her family, about her life on the ranch, but something held her back. Trust had to be earned, and she wasn't sure if she was ready yet. Suddenly, a faint vibration ran through the ground. Clara's instincts flared. Rogue's eyes narrowed. The drones. They hadn't given up. Clara felt a surge of adrenaline. Rogue motioned for her to follow. They exited the crevice quietly, moving along a narrow ledge above the canyon floor. Below them, small drones hovered, scanning the area. Clara's heart pounded. Every movement had to be precise. "Wait for my signal," Rogue whispered. "And don't make a sound." They crept along the ledge, Clara holding her breath as Rogue used a small device to send an electromagnetic pulse. The drones wavered, sparks flying, then crashed into the canyon floor. Clara couldn't help letting out a small gasp of relief. "You've got skills," Rogue said quietly, glancing at her. "Not many could do that under pressure." Clara allowed herself a small smile.
I would be so happy.
They moved on until they reached a hidden alcove, a place Rogue had prepared for emergencies. Inside there was a small stash of supplies, dried food, water, and blankets. Clara felt a wave of gratitude. Rogue didn't need to share this, yet he had. "Rest," he said. "We have a long journey ahead, and the gang won't stop hunting you. They want your father's secrets, and they won't stop until they find them." Clara nodded, exhaustion washing over her. She ate a small portion of dried rations, then lay down on the blanket. Rogue sat a short distance away, keeping watch. The canyon was quiet now, but she knew danger was always near. As she drifted towards sleep, Clara realized something important. Rogue wasn't just a rescuer. He was a mystery, a dangerous and intriguing figure who might just become her only ally. She didn't know his full story, but she trusted him, for now. And in the unforgiving Martian frontier, trust was as precious as water. Outside, the wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the scent of dust and distant metal. Somewhere far ahead, the outlaws waited, their drones scanning the horizon for any sign of her. Clara knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and new choices. But for the first night in a long time, she allowed herself a moment of hope. The Martian stars shone above, silent witnesses to a young woman and a mysterious outlaw bound together by fate, survival, and the promise of a long, dangerous journey ahead. The Martian morning broke with a faint orange glow, the canyon walls glowing as the sun crept over the horizon. Clara awoke to the cool shadow of their hiding alcove. The night had been quiet, almost peaceful, but she knew it wouldn't last. The outlaw gang wouldn't stop. Their drones would continue to hunt, and sooner or later they would come for her again. Rogue was already awake, checking the perimeter with careful precision. His mechanical arms moved swiftly, adjusting gadgets on his coat, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Clara watched him quietly. noting the way he worked silently and efficiently. She admired him, though she knew she had to stay alert. In the Martian frontier, admiration didn't mean safety. "Time to move," Rogue said finally. "We need to reach the canyon pass before the sun gets higher. It's open ground after that, and they'll see us from miles away." Clara nodded, mounting Luma. Rogue hopped onto his hoverbike, its engines humming softly. Together, they moved through the narrow canyon trails, careful to avoid open spaces. Every step was tense, every shadow could hide an enemy. As they moved, Clara couldn't help but notice the desolation around them. The Martian plains stretched endlessly, dotted with jagged rocks and abandoned mining outposts. Some of the ruins looked centuries old, relics of early terraforming efforts. The air smelled faintly metallic and the red dust clung to her skin and hair. Yet despite the harshness, there was a strange beauty in the wild frontier. "Do you always fight like this?" Clara asked cautiously, glancing at Rogue. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he kicked a small stone, sending it skittering across the canyon floor. "I fight only when I have to," he said finally. "Out here, it's survival first. Everything else comes later." Clara thought about her father and their ranch, the peaceful life she had once known. Survival had never been just about skill. It was about choices, courage, and timing. She realized she was learning from Rogue, not just about combat, but about life on the frontier itself. Suddenly, a faint, whirring sound reached their ears. Clara froze. Rogue's eyes narrowed. "Drones," he whispered. "Get down." They ducked behind a rock formation as the small, metallic scouts hovered overhead, scanning the canyon. Rogue activated a device on his wrist, sending out a brief pulse of electromagnetic energy. Sparks danced across the drone's surfaces, and one by one they crashed into the canyon floor. "Careful," Rogue warned, glancing at Clara. "They'll send more soon." Clara nodded, her fingers brushing the gadgets in her satchel. She was ready. She knew she had to use every skill her father had taught her. She activated a small device that emitted a bright, blinding light, sending the remaining drones into disarray. Sparks flew, and the machines tumbled, harmless but disabled. "Not bad," Rogue said, a hint of a smile on his face. "You're faster than most at adapting." Clara allowed herself a small smile. "Thanks. I've had practice surviving and failing." They continued through the canyon, moving with stealth and caution. By midday, the canyon opened into a wide desert plateau. Red rocks and jagged cliffs stretched in all directions. The wind carried fine dust that stung their eyes, and the sun beat down mercilessly. Clara squinted against the glare. "This is bad," Rogue muttered. "Too open. They'll see us from miles away." Clara's mind raced. "We could use the ruins," she suggested. "Hide behind them, draw them into the canyon." Rogue considered it. "Smart. Let's try it." They approached the ruins of an old mining facility, half buried in red dust. The walls were cracked and rusted, but they offered enough cover to plant an ambush. Clara dismounted Luma and began setting up small gadgets, traps and sensors to detect movement, while Rogue checked his plasma revolver and readied his weapons. Hours passed as they prepared. Clara marveled at Rogue's skill. Every movement was precise, every calculation deliberate. She followed his lead, setting traps, learning quickly, feeling the thrill of taking control in a dangerous situation. By late afternoon, the first signs of pursuit appeared. Dust clouds rose in the distance, and Clara could see the silhouettes of cyborg outlaws approaching, their hoverbikes kicking up red dust. Rogue signaled her to stay low. The ambush had to be perfect. The outlaws rode into the ruins, confident and aggressive. They had underestimated Clara and Rogue. Sparks flew as Clara's gadgets activated, sending small pulses that disabled the outlaws' sensors. Rogue emerged from cover, firing his plasma revolver with calm precision. Each shot disabled a mechanical limb or weapon system, forcing the outlaws to retreat and regroup. Clara's heart pounded as she used her devices to block escape routes and mislead the remaining cyborgs. She felt the adrenaline surge through her. The thrill of standing against danger with someone she trusted, someone who had saved her life. The fight escalated as the gang leader appeared, a larger cyborg with glowing red eyes and a mechanical arm capable of crushing steel. He advanced slowly, calculating each movement. Rogue stepped forward to confront him, while Clara set a series of traps along the perimeter. The confrontation was intense. Plasma shots clashed with metallic limbs, sparks flying across the ruins. Clara's gadgets disabled drones and smaller cyborgs, allowing Rogue to focus on the leader. He moved with lethal efficiency, using both his mechanical strength and human cunning. But then the leader grabbed Rogue, twisting his arm and sending him crashing into a wall. Clara's heart leapt. She had to act. She activated her final gadget, a small EMP device, and hurled it toward the leader. Sparks erupted, circuits fried, and the cyborg staggered. Rogue seized the moment, rising to his feet, and delivered a precise strike that disabled the leader completely. Silence fell over the ruins. The dust settled, and the remaining outlaws fled, defeated and disoriented. Clara sank to the ground, breathing heavily, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Rogue approached, brushing dust from his coat, his mechanical arms glinting in the fading sunlight. "You did well," he said quietly, his voice calm but firm. "Better than I expected." Clara looked up at him, her heart still racing. We survived," Rogue nodded. "For now. But this isn't over. The frontier is always dangerous, and the gang will regroup. We have to move before they send more." Clara felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had faced death, fought alongside a mysterious outlaw, and survived. She realized she was learning, growing stronger, and gaining confidence in herself. Rogue wasn't just her rescuer. He was her teacher, her ally, and maybe even something more. They mounted their bikes once again, moving carefully through the ruins and back into the canyon trails. The sun dipped lower, painting the Martian sky in shades of orange and purple. The desert stretched endlessly before them, harsh and unforgiving, but Clara no longer felt like a helpless girl tied to a fence post. She was a survivor, and with Rogue by her side, she could face whatever the frontier threw at her. As they rode into the shadowed canyon, Clara glanced at Rogue. He didn't look back, but she sensed a faint acknowledgement, a silent bond formed through shared danger. Somewhere in the distance, the wind carried the faint hum of more drones, a reminder that the fight wasn't over. But for now, they had won. Clara allowed herself a moment of hope, a moment of relief. The Martian frontier was unforgiving, but it was also full of possibilities. She had survived once, and she would survive again. With Rogue beside her, she knew that no canyon, no desert, and no outlaw could stop her. Not entirely. The canyon walls rose around them, dark shadows stretching across the red dust. Clara tightened her grip on Luma's reins, ready for whatever came next. Somewhere ahead, new dangers awaited. But for the first time, she felt ready. Ready to fight. Ready to survive. Ready to take control of her own fate in a world where the frontier tested every ounce of courage and skill. The Martian stars began to appear, faint glimmers against the fading orange sky. Clara looked up, feeling a strange calm wash over her. The frontier was vast, the danger constant, but she had found a companion, a teacher, and a protector. And together, they would face whatever the desert had in store. The canyon was quiet as Clara and Rogue rode through the narrow Martian trail. The ruins of the old mining outposts had long disappeared behind them, but the memory of the battle lingered. Clara's muscles ached from the fight, but the adrenaline still hummed through her veins. Rogue rode silently beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon, alert as always. "Where are we going now?" Clara asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but inside her heart raced. The gang had retreated, but she knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped. Rogue didn't answer immediately. Instead, he glanced at her briefly, a shadow of a smile on his face. "There's a place," he said finally, "a fortress the gang uses to store their tech and control their scouts. If we take it out, we can end this, once and for all." Clara's eyes widened. "A fortress? How will we get inside?" Rogue's mechanical arm shifted, adjusting a panel on his coat. "Careful planning, stealth, and a little luck."
You've got skills, Clara. I need you with me on this.
For the first time, Clara felt a mix of fear and determination. The frontier had tested her, but she was stronger now, more capable. She nodded, feeling a rush of courage. "I'm ready." The path to the floating fortress was treacherous. Hovering above a canyon chasm, it gleamed with metallic walls and energy shields that reflected the harsh Martian sun. Drones patrolled the area, and Clara could see cyborg guards moving along the platforms. It was intimidating, but she steeled herself. Rogue had saved her once. Now she would stand beside him as an equal. They approached the fortress under the cover of a canyon ridge, using Rogue's devices and Clara's gadgets to stay hidden. Small pulses disrupted the surveillance drones, and they moved with careful precision. Clara's heart pounded with every step. She had never been this close to such advanced tech, yet she knew she could handle it. "Here," Rogue whispered, pointing to a narrow maintenance shaft on the side of the fortress. "We can enter without being detected. Stay close." Clara followed, squeezing herself into the tight passage. Her breath came in shallow gasps, the metal walls pressing against her sides. Rogue went first, scanning ahead with his enhanced vision, then motioned for her to continue. The narrow shaft led them to a control room inside the fortress. Panels of glowing lights and holographic displays filled the space, humming with energy. "Perfect," Rogue muttered. "Now we take out their leader and shut down the system." Clara's fingers moved quickly over her gadgets. She deployed small EMP devices along the perimeter, disabling security circuits and robotic guards. Sparks flew and alarms began to flash, but the disruption gave Rogue the opening he needed. The gang leader, the massive cyborg with glowing red eyes, appeared at the far end of the control room, flanked by his mechanical enforcers. His voice boomed through the chamber. "You shouldn't have come here, Rogue. And you, girl, you're nothing but a distraction." Rogue stepped forward, unflinching. "We're ending this," he said, his plasma revolver humming to life. Clara took a deep breath, activating her final gadgets. Laser wires crisscrossed the floor, creating traps that disarmed the enforcers. Sparks and metal flew as Rogue moved with speed and precision, disabling the leader's mechanical limbs one by one. Clara's gadgets created openings, allowing Rogue to strike decisively. The fight was intense. The leader lunged, swinging a massive mechanical arm, but Rogue dodged, striking the exposed circuits. Clara released a pulse that short-circuited the remaining enforcers, leaving the leader vulnerable. With a final, precise strike, Rogue disabled the cyborg's core, and the leader collapsed in a shower of sparks. Silence filled the fortress. The hum of the machines faded, and Clara felt the tension leave her shoulders. She sank to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. Rogue approached, brushing dust and sparks from his coat. "You did well," he said quietly, his voice calm but proud. "Better than I expected." Clara smiled, her heart still racing. "We did it." "Together," Rogue nodded, a rare warmth in his gaze. "The frontier is harsh. It doesn't forgive mistakes, but sometimes it gives second chances." Clara thought of the Fencepost where she had been left to die, of the endless desert, of the outlaws and drones. She had survived, grown stronger, and learned to trust someone outside her own family. Rogue had become more than a rescuer. He was a companion, a guide, and a protector in a world that demanded strength and courage. They left the fortress behind, descending to the canyon floor. The Martian sun had set, and the stars began to shine faintly above. Clara looked around, the red dust settling softly over the canyon, peaceful for the first time in days. Rogue stopped, watching the horizon. "You'll need to rebuild your ranch," he said. "Life isn't over. Your father, he'll be proud of you." Clara nodded, thinking of the home she had fought to protect, the family she had survived for, and the lessons she had learned. She felt a surge of determination. The frontier was still dangerous, but she had the skills, the courage, and now the knowledge that she could survive anything. Rogue mounted his hoverbike, adjusting the controls. Clara climbed onto Luma, feeling the familiar weight of her satchel and the steady rhythm of the mare beneath her. They rode together through the canyon trails, the wind carrying the scent of dust and faint ozone from the disabled drones. "You'll leave soon," Clara said softly, sensing the inevitable. Rogue glanced at her, his eyes unreadable. "The frontier calls me. I can't stay in one place. Not for long." Clara felt a pang of sadness, but she understood. Rogue was a wanderer, a protector, a force of survival. She had learned from him, grown stronger because of him. "Then, thank you," she said simply. "For everything," Rogue nodded. "Stay strong, Clara. The frontier isn't kind, but you're stronger than you think." As he rode off into the distance, Clara watched him disappear against the red Martian horizon. For a moment, the wind was silent, the canyon empty, and the stars reflected faintly on the dust. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that she had survived, that she had fought, and that she had earned her freedom. Clara turned Luma toward home, toward her family ranch, toward a life she had fought for and would continue to protect. She didn't know what dangers the frontier would bring next, but she knew she was ready. She had faced death, learned courage, and survived the unforgiving Martian desert. The stars above twinkled silently, witnesses to a young woman's journey through fear, trust, and survival. And somewhere out there, a mysterious outlaw continued his path through the frontier, leaving legends behind him and inspiring hope in those he saved. Clara rode on, her heart steady, her spirit strong, ready to face the next chapter of life in the harsh yet beautiful frontier of Mars.